In Europe, there are millions of COVID cases every week. In China, there are very few, and China's commitment to a zero COVID strategy remains.
China's overall situation remains stable, and regional clusters of locally transmitted cases can be effectively controlled within a short period of time.
And this is what effective control means in practice.
They discovered 3 asymptomatic cases, 3, and that has led within a very short period of time to a city of over 1 million people being shut down.
Zero COVID means lockdowns. It means testing on a huge scale. It means disinfecting public transport ahead of a busy travel season. It means quarantine camps for those suspected of having COVID. There's even been a cull of hamsters in Hong Kong after cases were traced to a pet shop. China very much wants to keep COVID out, and so far largely it has. There have been just over 100,000 cases there. In the US and the UK, there have been tens of millions. We see similar differences in the official death tolls. China is in the low thousands. The US is heading towards 1 million. In fact, there hasn't been a COVID death in China for months, and supporters of zero COVID say this makes the case for it. They also point to the Chinese economy. Official data shows that GDP grew by over 8% last year. That exceeded most expectations. There are, though, caveats.
Now, China's strict zero COVID policy has meant that some major cities started to go back into lockdown from last month due to the Omicron variant, and we have yet to see the full impact of that.
For now, China believes its zero COVID strategy has worked, but a decision remains to be made. How long to stick with zero COVID? And it may have its hand forced.
I think my money would be on Omicron. The show is popping up across the country. I do think they're going to find it very difficult to prevent this one from spreading.
Variants pose a challenge to zero COVID policies. We've seen that in Australia. As Delta arrived, zero COVID departed. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Australia would now live with the virus. Or there's New Zealand. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said this last October.
Elimination was important because we didn't have vaccines. Now we do, so we can begin to change the way we do things.
Vaccines. They are the route out of zero COVID, in theory at least, and China is vaccinating. Official statistics show 1.2 billion people have been vaccinated. That's nearly 90% of the population. But there's an issue with 2 of the best known Chinese vaccines.
When it comes to Omicron, the reality is that China will be still reliant on its zero COVID strategy. Neither Sinopharm nor Sinovac do give a high degree of support against the Omicron or against the Delta strain, of course, which we're still worried about.
That's right. There's evidence that China's vaccines aren't as effective as, say, Moderna or Pfizer. And this is Lynette Ong from the University of Toronto.
This is another reason why the government is very concerned about relaxing its control. And they are not willing, as of now, to import vaccine. They are not willing to tell the rest of the world that the Chinese vaccines simply are not as effective.
And these limitations of the vaccines matter all the more because China's low case numbers mean the population as a whole has less natural immunity. For these reasons and others, a recent study by China's Center for Disease Control drew this conclusion, saying if Western strategies were adopted, it would have a devastating impact on the medical system of China and cause a great disaster within the nation. And there are 2 other factors that play into when to stop zero COVID. The first is the Winter Olympics in Beijing this February. China doesn't want any type of COVID disruption then. So foreign spectators are barred and tickets aren't being sold, and such measures appear to be popular.
As Beijing is China's capital city, the prevention measures here are definitely a bit stricter. Tickets not being sold is a way of epidemic prevention, so I support it.
The other key event is the National Party Congress in October. It's held every 5 years. These pictures are from 2017. And the Congress decides the future of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, in 2018, President Xi abolished presidential term limits. This autumn, we expect him to be confirmed for a 3rd term. It is a politically sensitive moment. President Xi doesn't want rising COVID cases to complicate that. But he has talked of life beyond COVID.
We must do everything necessary to clear the shadow of the pandemic and boost economic and social recovery and development, so that the sunshine of hope may light up the future of humanity.
And that is the rub. how to move clear of the shadow of the pandemic when that will involve letting the virus in with all the uncertainty that comes with that. And as we consider this, bear in mind what the WHO has said about the UK.
I'm saying I can see where the end is, I can see light at the end of the tunnel, but I really do anticipate right throughout the world a bumpy journey ahead during 2022.
Light at the end of the tunnel, says the WHO. President Xi talks of the sunshine of hope, but China and the West are in two quite different places. The West has lost many, many more people, but it's edging towards a life not dominated by the management of this virus. China, though, with its strict lockdowns and travel restrictions, is not. And for all the political, PR and public health reasons we've considered, it's unlikely to make the move anytime soon.